Hi, we had already completed half of this lesson, that is the French Revolution. We had studied the conditions which prevailed in the 18th century France. Then we had studied the condition of the peasants which led to revolt. Finally, the revolt ended the absolute power of the monarch, and France transformed from absolute monarchy to constitutional monarchy. Up till here we had studied. Now the next is France abolished monarchy and becomes a republic. What happens when monarchy was gone? When absolute monarchy gave way to the constitutional monarchy, what happened then? So now we'll study France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. What happened at that time then? So when France abolished monarchy and it became a republic, then after some years there was chaos in the France. Situation was tense in the following years. So the King Louis XVI, though he had accepted to give constitutional status to the National Assembly, but still he was not happy with all the developments that were taking place in the France. And because of his unhappiness, because of his uneasiness with the developments that were taking place in the France, he entered into a secret alliance with the King of Prussia. He entered into secret negotiations or alliance with the King of Prussia. So Louis XVI entered into negotiations with King of Prussia. Even the neighboring nations who were absolute monarchies, they were not at all happy with the developments that were taking place in France, because that revolts, that kind of developments were also inspiring the people within their country to revolt against them. So they were not at all unhappy. So they were planning to send troops to put down the events that were taking place in France. But before this could happen, the National Assembly voted in April 1792 to declare war against Prussia and Austria. So here the war was between, the war of people were against kings and aristocracies all over the world. So the actual war now began between the people and the absolute monarchy, not only in France but all over the world. So these all kind of revolutionary wars which were taking place all over the world and within France, it brought lots of economic losses and difficulty to the people, because most of the time the men in France, they were out for wars, and the women, they had to face great difficulties. They have to cope with the task of earning a living and looking after the family. Large sections of the population, they were convinced that revolution have to be carried further because it did not fulfill their aspirations. It did not fulfill their desire for equal status, for equality, and they thought that revolution have to be carried out further. So as a result, the developments which were taking place in the country, they were discussed among the people in large groups. They formed clubs to discuss the political situation in their country. In fact, these clubs were the hub of political activities. They were the hub where people discussed how to get their rights from the government, since they thought that it was the middle classes which have gained, the lower classes have not gained. So these clubs were the points where they developed the strategies to get their rights from the government. One such important club was Jacobean Club. Jacobean Club. So most of its members, they were from the less prosperous sections of the society. They were mostly shoemakers, artisans, cooks, watchmakers, printers, daily age workers, and their leader was Maximilian Robespierre. They also adopted a different kind of attire, different kind of dress to distinguish themselves from rest of the masses, to make themselves the revolutionary people who were revolting against the government. So the dress which they adopted was different from the usual dress which people at that time used to wear. They used to wear long striped trousers plus red cap. Red cap signified liberty, that they want to be free. So this kind of a dress, this red cap, it symbolized liberty. Women, they were not allowed to adopt this kind of a dress or participate in their activities. So finally in 1792, that is in September 1792, that is not in September, that is in August 1792, Jacobeans, they stormed the palace of Tuileries and made the king hostage. So finally, with their planful strategy and because of their dissatisfaction with the increase in prices and the kind of rights which they had aspired, they were not getting, because of all these kind of developments, they finally stormed the palace of Tuileries in August 1792 and made the king hostage. They massacred the king guard and made him hostage for several hours. Later, the assembly voted since National Assembly was there, so later the assembly voted to imprison the royal family. Elections were held. All men now above the age of 21 years, regardless of their wealth, could now vote. And in September 1792, finally, monarchy was abolished. Monarchy abolished, and in its place France became republic, where people elected their own government. Republic is a form of government where people elect their own representatives. They also elect the head of the state. And King Louis II, he was sentenced by court for treason and was convicted. So here came the end, with the death of Louis XVI came the end of the absolute monarchy. So France, it abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. So under it we have studied all the developments right from the situation which led to the transformation of monarchy to the republic. We had seen that after all the developments, we had seen that the coming of the National Assembly saw lots of turmoil in the France, and the situation became worse for after the following years, because the King Louis II, because King Louis XVI, he was not at all satisfied with the developments which were taking place in the France, and as a result he entered into secret alliance with the neighboring monarchies. These neighboring monarchies, even they were not satisfied with the developments that were taking place in the France, and they decided to send troops. But before they could send troops, the National Assembly passed the resolution to attack the countries of Croatia and Austria. So this war of the people was against kings and aristocracies all over the world. There was economic crisis in the France, as men were mostly out of war and the country was mostly engaged in wars. There was a financial crisis. Women have to face the brunt. The people were not at all satisfied. The lower strata was not at all satisfied, since they thought that whatever they had aspired from the revolution, they were unable to get it. There were a lot of political activities under the disguise of forming groups, under the form of disguising clubs. One such important club was Jacobean Club, and this Jacobean Club was this Jacobean Club leaded the revolution and finally stormed the palace of Tuileries, held the king hostage. National Assembly also declared elections and convicted the king for treason. Finally, the monarchy came to an end and republican form of government was established, or republican form of government came into power in France. Now the next, after though the republican form of government, it came to power, but under Robespierre, who had headed the Jacobean Club, who had played a vital role in the downfall of monarchy and demolishing monarchy in France. Still, when he came to power, he also practiced the same kind of extreme kind of absolutism, which he was opposed to. So what kind of absolutism he followed, what kind of extreme steps he take, so that people also became as people were also against him also. So what kind of activities or steps he took, that the people who supported him were now against him. So the period between 1793 to 1794 is termed as the Reign of Terror. Was termed as Reign of Terror in France, because Robespierre, who headed the Jacobean Club and who played a vital role in demolishing absolute monarchy, was now taking extreme steps which didn't get down well with his supporters. So Robespierre, he practiced authoritarian kind of rule under the disguise of republic. So he followed a policy of severe control and punishment. So all those people who were against republic, they were tried, they were punished under the special code which came to be known as Revolutionary Tribunal. So all those people who didn't supported him, all those people who were against the republic, all those whom he saw big enemies of the republic's ex-noblemen, clergy, numbers of other political parties, even members of his old political party who did not favor his methods, were arrested, imprisoned, and guillotined. That is beheaded. This was the technique which was invented by him, or which was adopted by him at that time. So a court was established which was known as Revolutionary Tribunal, and in this court all the people who didn't favored his policies, they were guillotined. They were imprisoned, convicted, imprisoned, and then finally guillotined. So some of the extreme steps which were taken by Robespierre were, let us know what were the extreme steps which were taken by Robespierre, so that even his supporters were against him, in spite of the fact that he was trying to perpetuate, or he was trying to safeguard republic. Still people, his own supporters were against him. So first he followed he put a maximum ceiling on wages and prices. Means up to this limit only a person could get wage, or up to this limit a person could earn. So that kind of a ceiling was put. Meat and bread were rationed, that is state controlled. Peasants were forced to sell their produce only on the prices established or fixed by the state. Peasants forced to sell their produce at fixed prices. Use of expensive flour was banned, and everyone was forced to have this nominal kind of equality bread, a loaf made of whole wheat. Everyone was forced to have that only. Then equality was practiced through forms of speech and address. Churches were shut down and converted into offices and barracks. So he took extreme kind of steps where maximum ceilings were put on wages and prices. Meat and bread was rationed. Peasants were forced to transport their grains to city and sell it at the prices fixed by the state. The use of expensive flour was forbidden, and everyone was forced to eat a kind of equality bread, that was made up of whole wheat. Equality was also practiced in the form of speech and address instead of traditional monsieur and madame. All French men and women were called citizens. Churches were shut down and their offices were converted, churches were shut down and converted into barracks and offices. So this kind of extreme steps did not get down well with his supporters also. And finally, because of his policies, he was convicted in the court convicted by the court in July 1794 and was himself guillotined. He was finally guillotined. He also was sentenced to death. Then after his death, for a short period, a directory rule began in France. What was that directory rule? So now a directory rules France. So, rule of Jacobean government was rule of wealthier middle classes only. So, new constitution was framed. So, the fall of the Jacobean government allowed the wealthier middle classes to seize power. Jacobean government was mainly the government which had the lower strata of the society, mostly peasants, poor people only. So, as soon as the Jacobean government fall, the power now laid in the hands of wealthier middle classes. Middle classes. A new constitution was introduced where everyone had the right to, where again the right to vote was not given to everyone. Instead, it was given to only those people who owned property. The constitution it provided for 2 legislative councils. These then appointed a directory. Directory it constituted of directory was an executive of 5 members. So, the constitution, it elected 2 legislative council who appointed a directory. Directory was an executive of 5 members. But this directory, the body which was made, or in it, the 5 executives, they were known as directors. They were often in clashes with the legislative council. So, again, there was political instability in the country. These clashes led to political instability in the country, and finally, it gave rise to a military dictator in the country, that is Napoleon Bonaparte. So, this political instability again led to the regime of political absolute monarchy in the country under military dictator Napoleon Bonaparte. So, he became Emperor of France. He became Emperor of France in 1804. He proclaimed himself Emperor of France in 1804, and he adopted the policy of annexation in the country, expansionist policy. He annexed large part of Europe, but finally he was also defeated in 1850 in the Battle of Waterloo. So, all these developments, through all these changes in the form of government, the ideals of freedom, of equality before law, and fraternity remain inspiring ideals and motivated political movements in France and rest of the Europe. So, we have seen that first France was absolute monarchy under Louis XVI. Then the power came in the hand of the third state, and they formed the National Assembly. Then again, the National Assembly was this National Assembly also gave way to more representative form of government in the form of republic, where people elected their own government. But again, because of the political instability inside the country, the rule of the directory and the rule where whosoever was coming to power was trying to amass the power, like we have seen in the case of Robespierre. He, in the name of the republic, tried to be authoritarian. This kind of authoritarian regime was not at all acceptable to the people of France. They strived for a kind of a government where they get more political rights. So, clashes between the supporters of democracy and non-supporters of democracy kept on going, and under such type of unstable conditions, rose a political dictator, that is Napoleon Bonaparte. Bonaparte, who proclaimed himself the Emperor of France and followed the policy of expansion. That's all under this topic. Thank you.